Hello everybody, and we're back with another video today. Today's topic is going to be about why the woke left communist agenda on restricting free speech is killing America. Nah, I'm just kidding. If you read the title, it's about Gen Z, obviously, because I'm Gen Z. But today's topic, it will be about political correctness in America, and more specifically amongst Gen Z, and which I was considered like woke in my opinion. This topic really came up in therapy once because we were talking about harmful language that was said to me, slash like just microaggressive language, which I think is a bigger issue than even just being politically correct, which I'll discuss later on. And basically what happened was like we were in like this group setting and we were supposed to play this game where it was like, make a sound that you want to, that like everyone can copy and try not to laugh doing it. And we ended up having to make these sounds and actions that were like super, I guess, heteronormative, or like basically it was like kind of, these actions were like kind of gay, and it was like assumed that, since everyone's like a straight man here, like it's fine like for everyone to do, right? And basically it was just assumed that it was like a heteronormative society, and the other guys, I was like, I'm not comfortable doing this. And the other guys like, nah, it's not a big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal. Like it's very fine. Like it's nothing. And I told my therapist about this, and she was like, this is like not acceptable. But she was also pretty confused because she was like, I thought Gen Z was super respectful and politically correct, which I'll refer to PC from now on. But that conversation spiraled for a while, kind of just ranted on for a bit. But it kind of led to a discussion about just PC amongst like Gen Z, and I just feel like that's a big issue right now. Like it's a big talk, everyone wants to be PC, but no one like wants to actually treat people with respect. First, we want to talk about the desire to be accepted. Second, we'll talk about the power of language. Third, we'll talk about the current attitude towards PC language and how we can fix this. And also, please let me know in the comments like your perspective on this issue. I want this channel to be pretty interactive. Opinions are supposed to be argued against, and I'm not a believer in forcing my ideas upon other people. I think like my ideas can be easily changed because my perspective only comes from me and a few other people, but I want this to be everyone's perspective. And the only way to learn more about a topic and be more insightful is through discourse and through just a community of people talking with each other. And I want people to feel included, want people to disagree with my opinions, and like we can learn from these. So part 1, the desire to be accepted. Everyone wants to be accepted, and that's obviously a given. Like who really wants to be an outcast? But even more so politically, specific areas and people groups tend to be more similarly politically affiliated. Like at least where I grew up, you basically were not allowed to be a Republican. You'd be shunned and bullied for sharing your viewpoints, and which kind of led people down two very rigid paths. You either lose interest in politics because you lean more right, or you become a Democrat or a liberal. And again, it's all about acceptance. This also works in reverse too for Republican majority areas. And with the development of the internet, these ideas spread very quickly, and these two moderate-ish sides of Republican and Democrat become extremely extreme. And again, because of our desire to be accepted, we slowly start to adopt these ideologies because we think it's what most people think. Especially with TikTok and how videos can go viral really quickly, the overconsumption of these types of videos can have someone believing in these opinions without a second thought, even though it may just be viral because of how outlandish and extreme it is, not because that everyone agrees with the sort of opinion, but then it becomes that way. And second, we're going to talk about the power of language. Now, let's talk about language. For people who think this video is about me complaining about people having to be too PC, you will have assumed the exact opposite. I really do encourage using PC language, as language holds so much power. Being called what you want to be called and spoken to in a way that is respectful to you is super important. A simple way that I do something is when I ask for someone's name and they give two names, like a nickname and their real name, I always ask which one they prefer. Oftentimes they will say they don't particularly care, but it's almost always a name. There is almost always one name that is more slightly preferred, and disrespecting their name is really important because it represents your respect for them as a person too. If you can't respect their name, then how can you respect anything else about them? And I just think language is about communication, and if we can't communicate in an effective way that respects people, then there will just never be a connection that is ever formed. And third, the long part. We're going to talk about the current attitude towards political correct language and how we can address this / fix this. So I feel like current treatment of utilizing PC language feels like walking on eggshells. Like that's how a lot of people describe it. They're like, oh, I hate being PC because I have to be so like careful what people say, what I say to people without offending people. Like supposedly having to watch everything you say not to trigger or offend someone. And while this may be true for some people, like you see a lot of these viral videos where people blow up because someone misgenders them. And while I think that is important not to misgender, I'm sure most people would agree that they just want to be respected for who they are and have an understanding that, oh, I accidentally said something to you that was not right, and I want to learn from this mistake so I can apply it to other things. So instead of walking on eggshells, we can learn just not to drop these eggs in the first place. In my perspective, the most important thing is education rather than always saying the right thing at the right time, which again may just be a behavior superficially learned because you learned how to just avoid these eggshells and not actually meaning it. Because at the end of the day, education allows you to more broadly apply language to different circumstances rather than just specific instances. For example, if we're talking about the specific use of pronouns, like if you actually have a desire to learn more about this sort of community, then you can have a better understanding of how to treat this community better overall rather than just in this one specific use case, which is just using the right pronouns. The standard for being PC has gone so far that it's so superficial on the language level and has no effects when it comes to actually learning about how to treat specific groups of people. Like, we give the power of language so much higher than the power of intent that people forget that intent actually matters. And not just that, but intent leads to better language being said. For example, PC has been evolved to using correct words rather than encouraging language about how to treat a certain group more equitably or in a way that is more respectful towards them. And so the dichotomy of this dilemma isn't should we still be PC or give up on being PC and just say whatever we want, but it's more discussing of how we can shift the understanding of how to follow PC language. One example I want to bring up is the discussion of mandatory pronoun sharing at the beginning of icebreakers. It's been a pretty common occurrence now that I'm in college, but it's not good. And the more that I think about what I'm saying, like every tagline or every like assertion that I'm making sounds similar to what someone who is more right-leaning would say. But all I can say is just hear me out about this, okay? While I believe in respecting pronouns 100%, I think an expectation to share your pronouns at the beginning of icebreakers is wildly less beneficial to the queer community than just voluntarily sharing them. While being a questioning individual, it may be hard to know what pronouns you really resonate with, and being forced to either make your mind up on the spot or just stating your he, him, she, her pronouns is, when you're not really vibing with it, it's just super disheartening. Like telling people that you are something that you're not. And if you choose to completely ignore stating your statements, you're often seen as a bigot or someone who like hates pronouns and just does not respect it at all. And as someone who had to go through this, stating he, him while questioning just never felt good. And I felt like people would think I wasn't progressive if I just like ignored the question of pronouns. And then I never wanted to say my pronouns once I was sure of them because I didn't want to out myself specifically. There's just not a lot of winning for questioning people and people who are still in the closet. And for people who are out, I'm sure like we'd be cool with just voluntarily sharing our pronouns. And so I think there's only losers when it comes to forcing people to share their pronouns. The race to being most PC can actually have more harm than good, as it perpetuates specific actions or phrases that can seem really beneficial, like with mandatory pronoun sharing, but upon further inspection and like understanding more nuance, it doesn't really benefit the people group that they're trying to help. So I like to say that we should stop focusing on language so much and rather think about how we can learn to be better people towards minority groups and also learn to use better language instead of just knowing these like buzzword languages, words that we're supposed to use to each other. And thanks for watching, all. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment your opinions. I really want to be able to engage with the community and have some good discourse.